time for another Shocktober episode, another movie review. And this time we're digging into a movie from 1987. And this movie is called Hellraiser, directed by Clive Barker. Now, I've obviously know about Hellraiser. I have seen bits and pieces of different Hellraiser movies. I'm not really sure which one, but I had never seen the original, and I'd definitely never seen one all the way through. So why don't I jump on my synopsis here? This is kind of a long one again. This is from Letterboxd, but it says, "He'll tear your soul apart." Larry and his wife, Julia, move into an old house and discover a hideous creature, the man's half-brother, who is also the woman's former lover, hiding upstairs. Having lost his earthly body to a trio of S&M demons, the Cenobites, Frank is brought back into existence by a drop of blood on the floor. He soon forces his former mistress to bring him his necessary human sacrifices to complete his body. But the Cenobites won't be happy about this. That kind of just gives away the whole thing there. So, the idea is I know about the Cenobites. I know about Pinhead. Obviously, he's the most famous one. And the puzzle box, which is, just a cool little thing. But the idea is Frank is searching the world because he just can't find anything to give him pleasure anymore. And he discovers the puzzle box, and when you solve it, it opens up the dimension to basically hell, the Cenobites. And, they're basically demons, or like some call us demons, some call us angels. But, that's just to, add a little ambiguity to them. Is that the right word? Sorry, take a sip of my tea here. I don't know if you can hear that. But, so he disappears and blah, blah, blah. And then they move into his house, and the husband accidentally cuts his finger and blood drips into the room, and he's able to kind of resurrect in the most barest form as like a skeleton. So similar to The Void, this is a movie that is very much effects driven. It's all about being gross and being bloody and disgusting. And honestly, I felt like the effects really held up. That was kind of the driving thing for this movie for me. I actually really enjoyed this movie. The story is really simple. It's, she's luring people to their death so he can regenerate his body. She's married to this other guy who she doesn't really love. She's in love with Frank, who's the guy's half brother. But she doesn't want Frank to kill his brother. So she's kind of conflicted there. They also have a daughter who's basically our hero of the story. And I really enjoyed this movie. To me, the effects. I think some of them are really good, really creative, and hold up, which was something I was not really expecting. I honestly didn't really know what to expect. Like I said, I had never seen a Hellraiser movie. I had seen bits and pieces of them. For me, it was just about Pinhead. He's one of those classic horror. I don't want to say monsters, but I guess he is a monster. One of those classic horror monster killer dudes. I kind of want to see some of the other Hellraiser movies now just to see what I've been missing. Because honestly, I never saw Hellraiser because as a kid, these movies actually kind of freaked me the fuck out. Like I've seen stuff with the Cenobites and stuff. I'm like, oh, well, okay, well, that's creepy. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So, now as an adult, as a fan of horror films, it doesn't bother me. So I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Let's watch them. So I'm glad I watched this movie. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I like the simple story, and I like where it goes. So eventually, this movie came out in 1987, so I will talk a little bit of spoilers. But eventually, the idea is the daughter finds out what's going on. They eventually do kill her dad, the woman's husband, Frank's brother, and he's like wearing his skin in this really fucked up part. But she finds out, she steals the puzzle box, and the whole idea is Frank doesn't want the Cenobites to know he's escaped and to find him. And she ends up accidentally solving the puzzle box. Well, not accidentally. She ends up solving the puzzle box, and that summons the Cenobites, and they're going to take her, but she instead offers them Frank. So then the deal becomes they're going to take Frank instead. And I like that little twist to it. I think it adds a fun little level to the movie. But Hellraiser was really good, really entertaining, and I actually want to watch the sequels. Like, I could see myself doing maybe for next year's October, I should do a franchise like series. Hellraiser could be one of those franchise. I don't know. I'd have to map out how many movies there are, but basically watch all of the movies in a franchise, because I was literally recently thinking that I've never seen all the Friday the 13th movies, and haven't even seen a lot of them all the way through. I'm trying to think. I've seen Freddy vs. Jason, which I don't know if I'd include that one. I've seen Jason X. I've seen the one where Jason dies. I've seen 1 and 2, but not in forever, so I don't really remember them, aside from just, like the classic moments. So I think it'd be cool to complete my knowledge on that series and go through and watch all those, or all the same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. And Hellraiser is one of those. I've never seen them all, but I'd have to. I think there's like 8 Hellraiser movies, and some of them get really bad. So, I mean, not to say the Jason movies are all great, because most of them are not, but maybe I'll map out which franchises fit within the month of October, and maybe next year I'll just do franchises. I think that'd be fun, because I do want to look at some of those. But yeah, Hellraiser, I highly recommend the movie. It's on Netflix. I didn't know it was on Netflix. Again, this was one just browsing at work, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I've never seen Hellraiser. Why don't I throw it on? And I'm glad I did. It was really good. The effects really hold up. You can even just, if you don't want to watch the whole movie, just YouTube like best moments from Hellraiser, and I'm sure you'll get some really good shit. I mean, there's definitely some like cheesy effects as well, because it is 1987, but I was surprised at how well they held up. So I would say check them out. I mean, check out the first one. I haven't seen the sequels. I think Hellraiser 2 is still considered pretty good, but any of the other ones probably not. I have no idea. I'll probably do more research into that. I know that eventually they just get into straight to DVD territory and just get really bad, and basically become more about the interesting thing about the movie is it's not really about the Cenobites, and the Cenobites are kind of the thing that pushed Hellraiser forward, and they started to focus on kind of how Halloween tried to do something different with Michael Myers, and then they're like, hey, this doesn't work without Michael Myers. And Hellraiser, it's all about the Cenobites. So maybe that's not a great comparison, but that's what I'm going to go with. But that's going to be it for today's Shocktober. Check out Hellraiser. I highly recommend it. I really enjoyed it. So be sure to check back tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have some tomorrow. Since I'm doing all these at once because of my emergency, and I'm dropping a lot of these on the same day, I might have to do some catching up and blast through a bunch of movies this weekend and do another big drop. So that might be the way of things from now on. My schedule got a little crazy because of the family emergency, and work just kind of being there. So we'll see what happens, but be sure to check back every day just in case you don't want to miss an episode. But thank you for listening, and look forward to my next horror movie review.